Yeah, we are back on our final 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:15 in the afternoon time slot. We are back, the Brothers and Influence, and I'm just want to welcome you. Welcome to the Brothers and Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value to Black men in the areas of life, leadership, and community. We consist of five brothers discussing relevant topics with candor and care. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go. Let's get started. I think we deserve another round of applause. This is a special one, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special one. Once again, my name is Ian Williams, the Purpose Coach. You can find me on Twitter at Son of the King 02, and you can find my beautiful family of three on Instagram at Team Reconcile. And I'm shoulder to shoulder with the man, the myth, the legend, whom I will let him introduce himself.
You said the man, the myth, the legend. Yeah, because I've been missing in action these past couple of ones, but y'all been holding it down. But hey, Sherrod Ledette, your leadership locksmith. I do leadership and personal development coaching. So yeah, just you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me. Let's rap, let's chat, let's do what we do.
Yes, sir. He said it's the leadership locksmith. Well, I swear he got some shaft swag. I'm just waiting for him to come on with a trench coat. He can just flip back. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I got some stuff coming though. Been working on some things. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what's up? That's what's up, man. Hey, this is a special day. This is different for many reasons. One, it's a holiday, right? National holiday, Memorial Day, where we're remembering our service members, our armed service members, the sacrifice that they made, those who made it home and those who didn't. I want to give a shout out to them. This is also this is one of those areas where there's a level of duality. I don't know if we kind of delved into duality as a concept, but it's like parallels, right? So it's Memorial Day. We are both honoring our vets, and we are also beginning to recognize and remember that this is the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, Black Wall Street, and I just kind of bring that up just because that's the nature of what it is to be, as a big part of what it means to be Black in America,
right?
And it just shows how strong we are because we can both honor, respect, and appreciate our veterans, but also recognize that there were some atrocities, right? There's two sides, there's two faces to what we experience every day in America. And we can do both. We can understand the weight of one, and then also, honor those whose service and sacrifice actually ensure freedoms for us here in a different way. So, in addition to that, I have the pleasure of introducing someone very special. It's a young lady by the name of Erlia Williams. Is backstage right now. She is a licensed social worker. It's hashtag Mental Health Awareness Month. You know what I'm saying? So we've been having the conversation all month long. She is a licensed social worker who provides mental health therapy services for children, adolescents, and adults. In addition to that, she is Team JMT. JMT stands for the John Maxwell Team. That my brother here, that I'm shoulder to shoulder with, is also a member of. She has a background in ministry and nonprofit work. She is a servant in all the right ways. She is also my business partner and co-owner of our business, Reconcile Consulting. We provide individuals, teams, and organizations with leadership development, as well as personal and professional development through coaching and training on all sorts of stuff, from diversity and inclusion to mindfulness, self-care, and just all around, goal setting and self-awareness, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a beautiful thing. And so I am glad, and I'll be remiss to also mention that we do teach what we call trauma-informed leadership. So that basically is what brings the mental health awareness and our ability to lead parallel to one another, so that that we can serve to a greater degree. And so without further ado,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna say, man, before you bring her on, I would just, I think I'd be remiss to just let our audience and those who are listening and going to watch the replay, if you haven't had the opportunity to catch any of the episodes this month as we've been talking about mental health awareness, you're missing, right? Because let me go ahead and be transparent with you, right? One, I know now, right? But I didn't know this was mental awareness, right? Month. I didn't know that. But the topic for this month, and because my brother Ian has focused on that, has given me a lot. When I mean, I say a lot of breakthrough, right? A lot of time to, I mean, we talk about mental health awareness. I ain't gonna say we talk about it, but we hear about it. But it's one thing to have a conversation around it, right? To actually sit down and talk. I encourage everyone, if you get the opportunity to go back and listen to the previous episodes, you will be blessed, right? You will be blessed. And you're about to be blessed right now when he brings out Miss Williams. So go ahead, brother, do your thing.
Yes. Thank you for looking out for me here. Definitely want to commend my brother. Just for the work, just for, it takes a level of transparency to say what he just said. And, this is one of those conversations that I would label as courageous, right? Not everybody's sitting around talking about what it really means to take care of ourselves. Not in a way that,
mentally,
exactly.
Mental health, right? We talk about physical health, right?
It's being defined, and the veil is being pulled back, and the stigma is eased up in a way that we understand that really it's something that's for all of us, right? It's not for a special contingent group of people or people that are struggling in specific ways, but really when we are talking about our mental health, we're talking about how we cope with our psychological state and our emotional state, right? And that's different for everybody, and the way that you cope with it is a sign of whether you're mentally healthy or not. And the thing about it is that as we go through in and out of seasons of life, we're not always healthy. Just like, when we go through seasons in the year, we're not always healthy. So sometimes balance means we need to focus more on that than others. And sometimes once we've arrived and we've gotten through some things, maybe we can ease up and then focus on other things. But ultimately, that's something that always needs some level of attention.
And it's funny that you said that, we're not always healthy, right? And some of the times, I think even from a physical standpoint, like until you go and get that checkup, till you get that pain, that thing that makes you feel like, okay, well, something's wrong. Then that's when you somebody who can, you'd be like, hey, I'm having this pain, doc. I'm having this, or some the shortness. Like you find something and then you go ask somebody. So the biggest thing I think that came from this mental health awareness, and again, you focusing on that topic this month, was the fact that, hey, it's a real thing, but hey, guess what? There is help for it. And hey, guess what? I'm not the only one, right? Everybody is struggling with this. Everybody's got this problem, but the only way you're going to be able to change anything or fix anything, you have to face it first, right? And here's the thing. Mental health is just as important as physical health, spiritual health, all those. I mean, it's all a part of you. But if you don't exercise it, if you don't fix it, if you don't do the things that are necessary for you to make sure that you have the proper health, that you're getting the proper nutrition, that you're getting the proper exercise and different things from a mental standpoint, then it's just going to be very difficult for you to turn around and make sure that you have the mental health necessary for you to actually do what it is you need to do mentally, right? Because you need your mental to be able to do your physical, to do your spiritual, to do, I'm just saying, okay? So it's so I'm done. Let's get into it.
He's on fire, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. He's ready to go. And just right before we bring out our special guest, this is a good opportunity if you're tuning in with us to go ahead and like, share. This again, hashtag Mental Health Awareness Month. We've been having the conversation all month long. Feel free to check back on previous episodes. But if you're with us right now and you feel like someone could benefit from this conversation, please feel free to share with them. We're live currently on Facebook as well as on YouTube at Brothers and Influence. You can subscribe there, and so you'll be notified each and every week as we get on. Starting next week, we'll be starting at 6 o'clock. Okay, so without further ado, a wonderful, wonderful person. Even if she weren't my wife, she's beautiful in many ways. I want to introduce Erlia Williams.
Hey. All right. I don't even know if I should be on today or if I should just let you guys take it from here because I feel like you already have it. I was just sitting here soaking it in and was like, oh, yeah, I'm talking with you all today, aren't I?
Yes.
So,
thank you for being willing to join us on Brothers in Influence podcast. Just because you're my better half does not mean that you had to get on here, but you were willing to join us for this conversation to help further awareness of mental health and the importance of it in a balanced way, not in not according to how it's been stigmatized or represented in the media, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, we're glad that you're here.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Don't think I missed that you called me young lady earlier. I appreciate that.
All right.
Of course, that also means that you're a young man still. So, but yeah, no, I was listening and, as you guys were talking about the podcasts that you guys have already done this month and everything, which have been exceptional and very much on point, I was thinking about the concept of mental health. And, a lot of times people are like, well, who has mental health? Well, anybody walking around that is alive. So we all got mental health, right? Just like we got the physical, we got the spiritual. So I'm excited that we get to talk about it because this is kind of my thing.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to talk about that. It's going to be laced in the conversation because it's a part of who we are. But we also want to give the people and the other brothers on the podcast a chance to get to know you as well. So as we get the thing started, I just want to ask you, this is the kickoff question, the icebreaker. Tell us something interesting about yourself that most people would not know, maybe even by looking at you.
Oh, okay. Well, as much as I love people and talking with people and things, and it's very much a part of what I do, I'm like really introverted at the same time. Yes. And my favorite food. Way. Yeah. And a couple of my favorite foods are like okra and peas. Not together. But like, I love okra. Yes, I love okra. I love peas. These are things I really like.
Now, fried okra though? Is it fried okra?
Oh yeah, most def. And then okra in our gumbo, of course, but fried okra. Grew up with a lot of that.
Yes. Listen,
with some fried cornbread.
I'm not trying to hype up, my own cooking, but our gumbo is next level.
That's all right. You can say that because it's true.
I like how you said I'm not trying to hype it up, but if I had to, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Okra,
fried okra. Yep, fried okra might have been one of the first things I served Ian, along with cornbread and something else.
That's true. She was trying to prove that she could throw down in the kitchen because that's kind of something I was known for. She broke out the fried okra, cornbread, and whatnot.
So
yeah, it was good. So so being an introvert and a helper, you're in a helper's profession, meaning that you work with people in a position where you have influence and you have to give a lot of yourself. How does it play out for you? How do you reconcile being an introvert and having that calling?
That's a good question. Well, I can definitely be what looks like an extroverted introvert from time to time. I do have some skills to do that. But it's powerful and draining, both simultaneously. There's just power that comes out of the opportunity to meet with people, to connect with them, and to see change. And like, there's an element of that that's like really energizing, right? And then I also have to have balance and know the times where maybe I need to retreat a little bit and take a little time to kind of fuel back up My tank can only stay going for so long. So frequent breaks. That's the trick right there. Frequent short breaks. So
that's good. Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. Because as you know, I'm wired the same way, and so it just kind of goes back to what things we've talked about earlier in the month, like self-care, right? We gotta be aware of how we're wired, and then we can kind of keep tabs on where our battery level is, right? So those breaks, we don't just take breaks, just because, but we take them with intention. Sometimes we take a break just because, but most of the time we take it with intention because we can't afford to be running dry. Go ahead, Sherrod.
Yeah. So I don't know if we jump right into it because now you
come on through.
All right. So because you brought up the point of introvert, right? So now I'm thinking introvert versus extrovert, extrovert, right? So will we say, or is there even a difference in how that mental health, the impact between an introvert versus an extrovert? Like, is there, like, you would need breaks? Like, I need breaks. I can definitely because I'm an introvert, right? So I can do this energy for so long, and then I'm like, hey, I got to go, y'all. I got to go because I need some break, right? But is there a difference between the two, like how that mental health impacts?
Yeah, you know what though? I think more than being introverted or extroverted, it's about what kind of boundaries a person has for themselves and knowing their own limits. So yeah, because you can have a healthy introvert, healthy extrovert, and the same thing, and healthy extrovert, healthy introvert. It's not really going to make a difference. It's whether or not they have the self-awareness to know what they need, right? So knowing when they need a break, or knowing when they need to reach out to people, because that is what fuels them, is being around people. Just that self-awareness, knowing limits, knowing when to take a step back or when to say yes to something.
And that's good. I like how you brought in boundaries, because I think that's definitely, especially from an introvert standpoint, I can see if you never really exercise your ability to actually get outside of that boundary, because I can at times put up a wall, right? Especially as an introvert, where I don't want to talk, or I just kind of get into a crab, right? And just get in my shell and stay there, or an extrovert where they stay out there so long to where there is no boundaries. Like, it's just always stuff coming at them. Right. So it's, I think that's a great point when we think about from a mental health standpoint, that we have to have boundaries, regardless of whatever that looks like, that we need to be able to set those boundaries and be able to not set them, but also maintain them, or, make sure that we keep them in front of us. Right. And know where they are, and let other people know where those boundaries are. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think having conversations with people, a lot of times people look at introversion and extroversion as like two just polar opposite ends, without the spectrum in the middle, right? Some people are wired; they can be more or less introverted than another person, and extroverted vice versa. Right. And so, like earlier was saying, it's just important to know who you are, know what. Set healthy boundaries for yourself, right? Because for an introvert, too much time alone could be bad, right? For an extrovert, too much time out, like what you just suggested, just connecting with people and whoever, could be bad. And so we all need some level of a balance of both. And the trick is to not run ourselves so dry that we end up isolating ourselves for extended periods of time, right? So that's why we take the breaks. We step away along the path, and so we don't have to check out of society for days a week at a time.
Yeah. This definitely makes me think of personality styles and stuff. Reconcile Consulting, we do a lot of DISC assessments and things like that, and I typically have kind of an idea of the potential personality type of an extrovert once I hear a little bit about them and stuff. And with each of the personality types, though, there come some really great aspects, but then there are also pitfalls to watch for. And so I think about that when I consider knowing one's boundaries, knowing one's limits, is sometimes just knowing oneself and personality and stuff like that is really important too. It's a good piece of it.
That's good.
Yeah. And that touches on what we talked about, self-awareness. the value and the importance of self-awareness. So what else? So what else would you say? What else do the people need to know about boundaries?
Well, I mean, you can have boundaries that are too porous, like things that can get in too easily, but you can also be too rigid with your boundaries too. Mm-hmm. That's also possible, right? So there's definitely a balance even in the boundaries, and then the other thing that can be sometimes an interesting thing for people to learn, but like that's what we even start by teaching our young son these things, is that a person's boundaries in many ways are their responsibility. Like, of course, as a child, we protect his boundaries too. Like he's growing in that, but we also respect his boundaries. Today, this is a good example, but like real simple. He was getting ready to eat something and he said, I want to have this hot sauce on it. Well, in my mind, I thought, well, that's not really the type of hot sauce you put with that, but like, okay. And so I checked in one more time. I said, well, I got this one here that goes with tacos. Do you, and he said, Mom, I said no. I said, okay. It'd been really easy to be like, well, I'm going to put a little bit right here and you're going to try it. And I did think about it. And then I realized, like, just like I tell him all the time, respect the no. He wasn't doing anything wrong. If he wants, it wasn't Thai hot sauce. It was like Frank's. If he wants to put Frank's on his taco, then he can go ahead and do that. It's not going to hurt anything. He can have that. But yeah, so we practice that even with him. Like he set a boundary. I respect the boundary. We do that a lot with physical boundaries around here. Okay, you don't want to kiss right now. Mommy's not going to like just come smooch all over you. You said no. Done tickling. Okay, we're done with that. And then in our adult lives, like being able to say no when like we're mentally expended, right? So a friend calls, they've got some stuff going on, they need to talk it through. Like, if you're already at the end of your rope and you got nothing to pour out, that's on you to say like, hey, I don't know if I could be the one today. I don't know if I can take on all this stuff right now.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah, and I like how you put like, again, it's our responsibility. So can you expound on that a little bit? So how is it our responsibility? Like I just be because if I know it's my responsibility to set my boundaries, but I don't know how to set my boundaries, right? Then I kind of lose what that looks like. So when you say it's my responsibility, how so?
Yeah. Well, I mean, people don't know what they don't know, right? So, so if somebody is reaching out to me or something and I don't have the mental capacity to deal with it, if I answer that phone and start taking that on, they have no idea that it was not in a mental space for that. And that's not on them. That's on me for not saying or not answering my phone and just, simply just not answering. This isn't going to be the time. I can't do this right now. I'm with my family. Like they don't know I'm in the middle of dinner at an odd time or, so it's my responsibility to say, hey, I'm in the middle of something else. If I'm willing to catch up later, whatever the situation. But I think one of the biggest things with setting boundaries is I'm going to get in a little deep here is like, depending on your family culture, and I don't mean like culture as in like, just family culture, because family cultures have they're their own entity. You may or may not have been allowed to have boundaries. You may not have been taught about boundaries. There may have been no boundaries. Like your stuff is my stuff. Your feelings are my feelings. My feelings are your feelings. Suck it up. We are one. Like this is how we do it. And so you might have grown up in a household where you did a lot of people pleasing, right? And so you constantly were violating your own boundary. And then you see people get into a pattern of where they're like, why do I keep attracting the same folks that almost seem to take advantage? And the reality is at some point, the common denominator is the individual that hasn't figured out how to respond in a healthy way, set the boundaries, and not allow that behavior anymore.
And you brought up people pleasers, because that was going to be my next thing, because that was immediately what I was thinking about. Like, again, somebody who's a people pleaser, right? Like, I would say, I mean, they don't, and I would say they don't have boundaries, but then I think I would be remiss to say that, because I think they do have boundaries, but they just don't know how to, again, stay behind it or even just keep it in front of them, right? Because, again, to the point, like, if someone calls, and I know we've had that one person like that, you'd be like, well, I called you. And I was like, yeah, well, why didn't you answer your phone? Like, I needed your help. Like, why didn't you? And be like, well, last time I checked, I paid the bill. Like, I didn't want to answer the phone. I was busy at the time, right? But again, sometimes people put like that type of pressure and stuff on you. Like, hey, I needed you. They like, so in the case of a people pleaser, like someone who's a people pleaser, how do they set boundaries? Is it the same way? Is it the same, responsibility? But again, how do I set that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like what you just said, you just say what the truth is. Like, I was not available to answer the call at that time, or you know what? I wasn't in the headspace to answer that call. I don't think I could have given you what you needed at the time, or, and the reality is, and I love to read. So like, I've just been reading a lot, but the reality is like, disappoint others before you disappoint yourself, because the person you got to live with is yourself.
Hey, you better write that down. Disappoint others before you. Yes, that was beautiful.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to resent yourself for continuing to make the same decisions, or you know what, you're going to end up resenting that other person. Like, why is this person come around? And then they're going to come around for something totally normal, and you're going to snap. But who's that on? It's not on them. They didn't know any better. It's going to be on you at that point.
Or your resentment for that other person is really rooted in your resentment for yourself, because you did not remain faithful to yourself.
Right.
Powerful.
Yeah, because if you don't have enough of, you aren't protecting yourself, holding your boundaries, and you don't have enough to give, like, you ain't going to be no good for those that are closest to you. Right. If I answer my phone 24/7, and Ian has seen me do this at different times when I've had to porous boundaries in this field, where I've been on call a lot and felt like, oh no, I got to answer that message that just came through. It might be somebody in distress, blah, blah, blah. Like, where does that put your loved ones that you live with? Because my head was somewhere, I'd be somewhere else, and not at the dinner table or not in our conversation. And
that's good. Before we move too far, one of our brothers, a friend of ours, jumped in the chat and kind of just reaffirmed what you guys were saying about boundaries earlier. Can you speak to this a little bit?
So the unhealthy solitary. Yeah. So a little bit about. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can we bring a perspective from both ends? Both ends of the spectrum.
Okay. So, this kind of goes back to like the rigid boundaries, right? And when I think about this, I think about like sometimes people have more rigid boundaries too. And I'm just going to say it, like, all of us got mental health and all of us got some kind of trauma. Like, that's just a reality. Like, none of us escaped it. You've been born, you came into this world, you went from being in this warm, cozy womb to like all of a sudden you're out here and my God, it's loud and all this stuff is happening. You have experienced some form of trauma, whether you meant to or not. Like, facts, that's just what happened. And so a lot of times people, though, in response to their experiences, to their trauma, maybe pendulating from families where boundaries were so non-existent, will wall themselves up to where they can't have a relationship with people. They can't be genuine with other people. They can't love. They can't trust in a way that is healthy and vulnerable. And we talk a lot about vulnerability here, right? Like, being vulnerable is being human. And if you can't be human, you can't connect. And all of us were wired for connection. All of us were wired for belonging, right?
That's good. And I'll just be honest. Really, she's telling my story. She's telling, from someone who has been through that sort of experience, based on how I was raised, based on the fact that I not only just came into the world, but then I was put up for adoption. Relationships had never come easy, and so the way that played out for me, it was either one way or the other, right? It's all or nothing. So if I had my boundaries up, then I shut everybody out, and then when I relaxed my boundaries, they were so porous that I exposed myself to things that I should not have. So to things, relationships, to people, etc. Trying to figure out how to bridge the gap. Balance was just continue to be elusive because I never had healthy examples. The environment that I grew up in, the people that were most significant to me throughout the majority of my life, they only enforced the all or nothing. There was no healthy in between. There was no respect for my boundaries. It was, I have access. You're mine. I have access to you and everything that belongs to you. Versus, me empowering me to be able to say, no, I need to occupy my own space, which is what we try to do with our son. And so that's in a way, empowering him and working with him in that area is therapeutic to me, cathartic to me, because I did not have that. I don't have that experience. And so, to that end, that's telling my story. So I don't know, Sharad, you got a question?
Yeah, because she brought up a point of saying, sometimes you can have a boundary that's non-existent. Right. And then immediately I was thinking about, okay, so if you don't have a boundary that's non-existent, but what if you have a boundary and then it's violated? Right. That somebody just bombards your kicks into, you know what I'm saying? They just forget about your boundaries and just go into your space or whatever, or however you have that boundary set up. How does that impact?
Yeah. I see Ian shaking his head.
Well, yeah, trauma. Right.
That's trauma.
Right. Yeah, it's traumatic. Yeah. Well, you're going to have to reassert that boundary, and let them know. So we talk about this a lot, like how we confront one another, even here in our own home, right? Because we practice these things and we take them out into the world, and it's real exciting. But even in our confrontation, I felt XYZ when you did this, and I told you I wasn't okay with it. Like owning, like, this is how this made me feel. This is what you did, versus you did this, and because you did it, I feel this. You did this, I feel this. You made me mad. Well, can't nobody make you mad. But, if I steal one of Ian's t-shirts, which I do sometimes, and he said, I really don't want you to steal that one. That one's like one of my favorites, but I take it anyway, right? I violated a boundary, and this one has not happened, just so you guys know. I'm like taking his favorite t-shirt. But if I did, it'd be really unkind of me to do that. Instead of him being like, you made me mad by taking my shirt. Hey, I felt angry when you took my shirt, and I told you I didn't want you to take that one. Like that's one that's mine. You can't wear that to sleep in or whatever. You go to the gym. Like, I already did that, and you made me feel violated. He can even use those words. Like, I felt violated by that. But if somebody is a repeat offender, if they are a repeat offender, you know what? This is going to sound real bad here in a minute. Because I'm a believer. I love Jesus. I love people. But even if they family, if somebody violates my boundaries too much, they can stand on the outside of the wall because they won't be in, because I'm not going to live like that. And that's okay. Yeah. Like, that's a part of that family culture that has taught us that we have to just deal with it, because we don't.
But I think you're hitting on something that, again, when we think about it, this is the stuff that's not talked about.
Yeah.
Right. That everybody's dealing with. Right. So I've been asking questions, and I've been trying to be very strategic, because I think these are the things that, again, when we think about boundaries, again, especially within the home and all that, and how it translates or transposes itself outside of, right, the home and into your own personal life, to your work, all that stuff matters. Right. So I think we're really speaking to, and I think you're bringing some wonderful insight, means to have a boundary and the importance of it. And then what happens when, one, you don't set it, or two, it's non-existent, or three, like you said, it's violated. Right. And I'm with you. Like, again, it may not sound right, and I love Jesus just as much as I love people. But hey, in my family, hey, you get the deuces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and I should be okay with that, right? And then even with the member or whoever or whatever the problem is, if you get on outside that boundary of that wall, I mean, don't trip in that like you don't know why you out there, right? Like why that boundary's up, right? Like that conversation is real short. Hey, how you doing? You need what? Okay, great, thanks, bye. Right? Like there's no conversation, right? So no, I really think we're really touching on some things that I think again is really going on, or just with people, period. But again, it's not really understood, or it's just not talked about. Which again, if you don't know, you don't know, right? So
yeah. One of the things I feel like we can kind of touch on that's right outside of what's been mentioned so far is I can feel myself saying the how, right? Because what we're saying, it makes sense logically, but it's not always easy. These are difficult things, especially when it comes to the people that are close to you, like family members, right? That maybe are boundary violators. I call them perpetual line steppers. When it's family members, it's hard to just say no. It doesn't mean that you never want to speak to them or see them again, but ultimately, they cannot occupy your space for more than what's reasonably allowable because of how they choose to behave or how they try to manipulate you. And that's a strong word, but it's accurate. And so this is where we talked about even months earlier, our values come in, right? What are our values? Because it's hard to provide a foundation for the no without without knowing them, right? If you don't know your values, it's very difficult to provide a foundation for your no. It's virtually impossible. And so self-awareness, what are your values? Meaning, what are the most important things to you? As a grown adult, I had to recognize at some point that my faith and my family were the top two. There might be 15 things that are important, but my top two, everything else is going to fall up under those things. And so when I have to say no to someone who may be somewhat of a family member outside of my home, I'm saying no because I'm saying yes to my wife and my son, not just because I'm uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so we all need that compass. We need that we need that reassurance. We need to be able to reassure and empower ourselves by becoming aware of what the things are most important to us, so that we can navigate this, because it's not easy.
Right. What's great though is when we practice our own boundaries, we empower other people to have their own. Like we're teaching and we're modeling an example of what it's. If it's okay for me to say, I didn't answer your text because I decided I was shutting it down for the night early. We're also teaching them, if I text you and you're just spent, it's okay. Like that's all right. Honor that boundary. Don't push yourself, And then kind of how we were talking about having people on the outside of the wall. We've got rings. There's like rings when you think of relationship, right? You got your inner circle. And, depending on who you are, that inner circle might be kind of small. Inner circle's kind of small for me. And then you got your kind of, out here, and then it just gets a little bit bigger. They're the people that they're only allowed certain amounts to control the amount of what comes out of my life, of my shared experience of, people, can they hop in and out of some of those over time? Yeah. Relationships get healthier. Connection, people respond to one another's boundaries. Yeah, you might move up a ring. Like that's okay. But that's part of the us taking responsibility, like where we allow those things to happen, how that's going to mess with our peace. Because when things mess with our peace or mess with our values, it affects our peace, right?
Yeah, I think that's the one time where you can be selfish, right? That we should be selfish. Comes to our boundaries and our peace and our values. Like that's like those are the things that, again, at your core, that's who you are, and that's why, again, I would even say you have your inner circles or your different, right, because of who you are and what the values that you hold and different things of that nature. So, that's the biggest thing that stood out to me. And I forget what was said that made me think about that. But again, like boundaries now, I'm looking at it like, okay, hey, I'm okay to stay within my boundaries and then to allow what in and what out, right? Because at that particular time, I'm okay for me to be selfish, right? Because I got to protect my peace, my mental health. Right. So, no, that's good.
Yeah. I think this spills over. Go ahead, Ian. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, and another one that really was encouraging to me is the realization that when you do say no, the way that someone else copes with that has to do with their mental health, not yours.
Yeah.
You are not responsible.
Yeah.
The way that somebody copes with the no, and that's extremely powerful, because I know that I've got some people in my life that have been in my life over the years that have not coped well with the no, and made me responsible or made me feel responsible for how they were dealing with it.
Yeah. And that just makes me think about, response versus react, right? How you respond to something, or if you react to something, where reaction is all emotional, right? You said no to me. What? Why would you say no to me? Well, instead of saying, oh, okay, well, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, obviously you can't help me now. Then responding, right? Understanding, having that level of understanding versus getting all emotional and reacting to the no. You said no to me? What's it? Right? But that's how some people get.
Yeah.
I mean, I frequently in this house say respect the no.
I like that. Respect the no. I'm gonna get a shirt. Respect the no.
If we tell our son, we tell our son he can't have something, we talk about it. You can ask for it. If I say yes, more power to you. But if I have to say no, like this isn't something you can have right now, you just got to respect the no. Like there's a reason. I've said no. You can't, do whatever it is. Take the battery operated toy in the bathtub, or whatever kids try to do that sometimes you just can't explain to them. Like there's a reason. But we talked a little bit about relational boundaries and stuff too, the mental health, but I think this extends to other areas when you think about it, like boundaries with what we, like if we get real literal, even allowed to cross the threshold of our, like what we ingest, like boundaries in our eating, boundaries in what we watch, what we observe. Like these boundaries, they extend beyond just people and stuff. So having healthy boundaries for ourselves, how many days will I let myself go without going to the gym? How many, will I let myself ingest this sugar that I know will give me a migraine later? Like, and I mean, doesn't it hurt when we violate that kind of boundary?
Yeah. And that's basically what you're saying is the reality that binds us all together is self-trust. So if you have consistently lived with other people violating your boundaries where you haven't had the strength to enforce them, or you just, for whatever the circumstances were, if you don't have the self-trust to do boundaries there, odds are you're going to struggle to hold boundaries for yourself in your personal, individual being as well.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. It just made me think about just what you allow to have access to you, right? And Aaliyah said it because she said, not just, what we, there's the boundaries, but again, what we ingest, watch, what we listen to, like all those things, like they have an impact. Not just, when we think about what you ingested, that just has an impact to your physical. No, not really. Because again, like you say, you get the migraine, right? That sounds mental to me, right? Because now you have a headache. Now you can't think. Now you're irritable. Now you don't want to, right? Yeah, your no becomes a raging, right? Because again, you've allowed something to impact you in a different way, right? So I think that's very, very key when we think about boundaries. That again, it's just that relationship, but it's in all aspects. Looking at it in the big picture sense. Yeah.
Well, that gut brain connection that's a real deal, right? Like exactly what you're saying. A lot.
Can we go into that a little more?
Yeah. So what we eat does affect the way our brain operates, right? There's been a lot of research that that well-being is affected by what is put into the body, what's ingested by the body. There's been some research that, and I obviously am not the scientist on this one, but some people have learned that certain things like gluten sensitivity or caffeine, those types of things can play into some of their anxiety, and they learn like the more I have of this, like it impacts me this way, or the more sluggish I feel after I've had sugar, I might feel kind of down and depressed. Like when I get in this pattern, about a year or so ago, I started eating a little bit differently and cleared up a lot of brain fog I was having. It was just certain things in the diet, and Ian knows it. He'll say, "Why'd you do that to yourself?" So I have moments where I'm like, "Oh yes, the risk is going to far outweigh," and it rarely ever does. So no, and he can tell it too, just as much as I can when I'm not as sharp as I usually am, because it might be something that I've made my boundaries more porous.
Yeah. So even from, even thinking from that perspective, even for me, like I had just found that, well, I knew I have an allergy to nickel, right? But I've been dealing with some just like craziness and been going to the doctor and all that stuff. But then come to find out that, it could be something I'm ingesting. I'm like, I'm not, I'm gnawing on metal? Like I'm like, like, no, I'm not doing that. Right. But come to find out, like nickel is in almost everything when it comes to food. Right. So I have now, and it's funny because my wife was telling me literally today, she was, we've been researching and looking at stuff, but she looked at me and she came up with something. She was like, look, you have on the things that you can do, not the things that you can't. Because I was starting to get into a mental space where I was thinking about like, shoot, I can't eat this. I can't. Well, I might as well just drink water the rest of my life. Right. I can't do nothing because I was mentally getting to a space where I was actually putting up a boundary, more so a wall, to say that I can't do anything because, of this allergy or this thing that I'm dealing with. And then that's not the case. Right. There are such things as low nickel diets and high nickel diets and all kinds of other different things. So it was just interesting, when we think about just, again, those different boundaries. And again, like you said, and that's what made me think about like what you said when you talk about just ingesting, because finding a lot of information, again, like you said, there's certain foods that actually help the brain, right? Even the frontal cortex, right? Versus it's all different parts of your brain. It was very interesting just finding how different foods and different things fuel different parts of our brain, right? So I'm definitely going to be reading that some more because I'm trying to be the brainiac, like so. But it was good, So
you got to check out Dr. Amen then. So if anybody's interested in like how minerals, food, natural supplements play in the brain, like Dr. Amen is the person to check out. Yeah, Daniel Amen, like amen, like we gonna pray, amen, like we're going in. So yeah, that with the food, and then not to sideline too much, but you think about the media we put in ourselves, that directly impacts social media, music, TV. They put mood music in TV shows for a reason. Like it does something to your mood. It does something to your mental state. Right.
I so was going to bring that up earlier, but I left it alone. But you went there.
It's true.
Hey, what happened? I disappeared.
I see you.
Oh, I disappeared on my end. Social media, right? So from a mental health standpoint, just curious, how does social media play into our mental health?
Oh man. Well, think about it. Like ain't nobody taking a picture of themselves on their worst day. Right.
Right.
So it kind of lends to what Ian and I call the comparison trap. It's real easy to compare oneself to these models of what looks like is, going well for other people and things like that. And maybe to despair on our own situation. And then there are other times. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it's so easy to get into that comparison, right? So easy, because even from not even just from a social media standpoint, just think of our society in general, right? I mean, it's constantly from from movies to TV shows to commercials to the music to the advertisements. They're always talking about something, right? If it's the beauty or the physical or the right, and it just depending on what you're dealing with, there's going to be something that's going to make you be like, I wish I had that, or ooh, I wish I was doing that, or woo, you know what I'm saying? So that comparison game is big. Like, I'll be honest, I sometimes struggle from that, right? And I sometimes have to focus, especially like when I'm dealing with like social media, like when I see other coaches doing other things, and I'm like, I need to do that. Oh wait, no, I'll do that. And the next thing you know, I'm not doing nothing because I'm trying to do what other people are doing, right? So yeah, no, I completely understand like that whole comparison game, and that's big.
Yeah.
So here's something interesting that as I'm listening, we're processing the discussion. Like, just think about it. Media in general, and then let's say media and then social media, they don't have boundaries. We've talked about this whole time. We are responsible for our boundaries, and so I don't have the stats, but the average person, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe is really acquainted with this idea of boundaries and that level of self-leadership and self-management. Right? Some people, I've met people throughout life that are better at it than others, and it becomes more natural. But it's not a part of common everyday conversation. When I think about the media, you could say like movies, right? There's information out there to let you know, like the rating system, right? If a movie's rated R, that's a signal to me. Okay, I need to set a boundary so that maybe I don't need to see it, especially not my 5-year-old. Then there's PG-13 and so on down the line. But those inform me. It does not force me. Right? There's nothing that says I can't go see that. There's nothing that says that I can't take my 5-year-old to see that. I have to make the decision myself. And then on the inverse of that, you look at social media. There's no rating system. You open up that feed, you're liable to see and be exposed to anything. Right? And so it really requires a even greater level of responsibility than we had to have 20 years ago before it's the onset of social media. When we talked about, text messages, our smartphones fall in the same category, right? We can set boundaries in there, right? We can set a parental limits. We can do that, but it's still our responsibility. We can. I love the feature on my Android phone. I don't know if they have this on iPhone, but we have a feature called Do Not Disturb. Do Not Disturb says we're not getting any phone calls or any notifications after a certain time. If it's important, leave a voicemail. That's what I tell people. Leave a voicemail. I'll see the voicemail. When I choose to check that voicemail, I will get your message. But because I have a smartphone and because I have social media, it does not give anyone the right to have access to me 24/7.
Yeah, unfettered access.
That's a boundary I have to set for myself that I haven't always had. But I now understand, hindsight is 20/20. That access left me in an unhealthy place.
But let's talk a little conversely about this, right? The opposite end of things is like media and social media can be a glorious thing, right?
I was going to go there.
When there is an opportunity,
when you used right, appropriately, right? What it was originally designed for, like it's not bad. But again, I mean, it's like Ian said, there's no boundaries, right? So if there's no boundaries, even the person using it, if I don't have no boundary, then it's fair game. I do what I want to do on it, and I'll, hey, whatever.
Exactly. Right. We have a balanced conversation here, so we definitely want to say that. We want to bring that to the forefront. But we're not discussing the health of social media. We're not discussing the health of media itself. We're discussing our individual responsibility and the management of our own mental health.
Mental health,
yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, brother, I think Android took that from iPhone. I'm just saying.
No, bro.
I'm just saying.
That's a whole other conversation. We can have
ain't no other conversation, man. I thought you had an iPhone. To be honest, I'm just kind of disappointed.
I'm not jacked into the matrix.
All right, boundaries, guys.
I'm not jacked into the matrix. This ain't no red pill, blue pill situation. Now we might need to have an intervention for you, bro.
Oh, here we go.
No, but seriously, no, this conversation has been amazing. I think there's so much value that's just been added in over the course of the last hour, and I know that we took a little bit to bring her on, so I want to make sure that we kind of squeeze as much as we can out of this opportunity and time. I know that Shiraz's got other questions.
Yeah, I just have another question. I don't know if we're getting ready to wrap up.
All right, so let's
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just looking at mental health in general, right? And again, me, like I knew about it, and again, because my brother Ian took the time to say, hey, look, this month I've been blessed, right? Personally. But I just would like to hear, just from your perspective, like what would be 3 things right now, someone watching, that they could say, okay, I'm this whole mental health thing, I got it. But what are 3 things that I can do now, kind of help with my mental health, right? 3 things.
Well, first one, self-assess, right? Figure out where you're at. Because as we already talked about, like every one of us has mental health. We all have mental health. So where's yours at right now? After you've kind of assessed that, you figured out like where you are health-wise, assess those boundaries. Where are those boundaries at? Where are they not at? What's in place for you already? If there's something that's kind of out of place, address it. It's time to address it, right? So that assessment, that self-awareness, I think the second one is just to continue to guard it, right? Guard the mental health. Make sure that you're able to maintain, learn what works for you, right? So I talk a lot about, I'm going to make a plug here. We have a Life Reconciled journal is what we call it, but it is more or less a workbook. And a lot of what's in there, so it's a personal growth workbook that we had created through Reconcile Consulting. But a lot of the material in there are things that we would take from like cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy and mindfulness skills and things like that a person would be able to read, is easy to translate, and they could utilize the activities that are in that book. So that's, just continuing to maintain, learn what works. And, that kind of goes into like the coping skills, learn what helps you to regulate emotion, learn what helps you to stay rooted and grounded. That's kind of that mindfulness talk, right? Staying in the moment. And 3 is just being open about it. Like, let's be open about this, because I don't know about you guys. We are not that old. I'll just say that. But we're old enough to have been out of high school for a while, to be removed from, and I could even think about, childhood versus now, like mental health came up. It was a lot different of a conversation than it is today. Like, I feel like maybe it's almost faddish for people to, on social media, love my therapist had therapy Tuesday, can't wait to go see her. Can't wait to go see them. Like, whatever it is, like, it's become more open and less stigmatized. But we want to continue to remove the stigma, even our everyday conversations, kind of like what we're doing now, right? Because we do know that there are barriers, right? Whether they be like cultural overall, family culture, social, any of those types of things, like figuring out where those barriers are and beginning to kind of break those down.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay.
Yes, sir. Any more questions?
If you got, I got some more.
We're running the whole time.
So okay. So that was great. So you gave 3 things.
Make this a part 2.
Okay. Well, real quick. Okay. So you gave us 3 things to look at. So if I'm thinking I'm struggling with mental health, what would be a kind of an indicator, like 1 or 2 indicators to say, okay, hey, you probably need to do the self-assessment, right? You might need to, look at your boundaries, or you might need to look at, okay, hey, what's going on? So what would be like an indicator or something for saying that I might have a mental health?
You might have a concern. Something's
there you go.
up, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we think about like the breadth of emotions, all of us experiences, we all experience each and every emotion, mad, sad, glad. There might be times where we feel anxiety. Anxiety is actually a normal emotion and can be a very healthy emotion, right? It's anxiety that sometimes propels us to study for a test that's coming up, or to be vigilant when we're driving on the road, or whatever it is. It's normal for there to be some sadness and some everyday events, because that's just life is not always perfect. And if we are people that don't have the blinders on and we see injustice and things like that, we're going to feel these things. We don't want to not feel. So feeling is not an indicator that something's wrong at all, right? But a good indication that something wrong is if that feeling has become so overwhelming or pervasive that it's like impacting your functioning. So maybe you notice your hygiene slipping, or you're having a hard time pulling yourself from the bed in the morning, right? Things just aren't the same going to that job all the time. And, that might be an indicator that something's going on with your mental health. But I think also that might be an indicator that you might need to make a choice to look at those values again and go back to them. That could be a very healthy indicator that something needs to change, whether it be your situation or it be your attitude about it. But I think any of that requires assessment, right? You're going to have to go back and assess. But yeah, if you see something that's impacting your overall functioning, you're too anxious to call the bill collector and deal with paying a bill or things like that, and you're letting them pile up, you need to talk to somebody. You need to work through that or get to the root of it quick.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I appreciate that. That's good.
Yeah. You having some challenges over there?
No, I was just, who's not having a challenge, right? But no, it's just, I think it's just important for us to understand. And I love the fact that you hit on the point that, again, we all have emotions, right? We all feel sad. We all feel like all these different things. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that I have a mental health challenge, but it also doesn't mean that I'm not. Right. And I think that's, like you said, that's that whole assessment, right? Really taking the time to really sit with yourself. Right. And I'm done after this, brother. I'm telling you, I'm done. Like the biggest thing for me, especially, and it was interesting because I had caught COVID. So I had to sit in a room by myself, right, for 12 days. If you really want some time to reflect, right. First, I wouldn't say you have to get COVID to do that.
That's COVID.
But Right. But again, I was isolated. Right. And again, I'm an introvert. Right. So I was thinking like, shoot, 12 days, I'm good. Like I like being with me. But when you had to be with me all day, every day, you get the opportunity to sit down and reflect on different things. So I say that to say that, it gave me a great perspective. And again, when we were, they were going through this month. And again, I wasn't able to get on all the shows, but I was able to watch and listen to it. And it was just great stuff. And I think that, again, it's just so important to talk about this mental health the way that we've been talking about it all month. Some of the things that you brought up, again, when it talks about, okay, these are the 3 things you need to look at, right, to kind of assess and, see where your boundaries are and different things like that. But also sometimes we need to just, in that assessment, like, okay, well, hey, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Right. Why am I looking at things, or why am I, like I said, like letting these stack up, or why am I, so short with my kids? Why am I, like, all those different things? And I think it's just important to be able to, really identify and really see that if I do this assessment, I really take it serious about this mental health, that I might be able to figure out something and not have to deal with it the entire time, but get the necessary help, right, to kind of get back on track, so to speak. So. No, I appreciate it. So
Yeah. A lot of time I tell kids, become a detective. You become a detective of your own emotions, right? And a detective doesn't come in with the biases of, this is good or bad, because there is no good or bad emotion, right? When we teach people that there are bad emotions, we teach them to either not feel them, to numb them, to not express them. And all of those are not healthy, right? We need to feel anger sometimes. We need to feel sadness sometimes. because those are the normal spectrum of emotions. They also allow us to understand when somebody has violated our boundaries, right? Like, and if we aren't detectives and look for those things, then we're being negligent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Just to add to that, I would say it's not that the emotions themselves that are bad, but the problematic part is the lack of understanding of the emotions.
mm-hmm.
Many of us, especially in our community, Black community, not only do we not understand, we don't even have words for the things that we feel. So you're not going to be a very effective detective if you cannot identify the source of or the root of the problem. Right?
I think it's important to go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just going to tie it back to our kid. We try to encourage him to identify his emotions. We talked about on here how anger is a secondary emotion and how it's undergirded by other feelings. But the anger is like a defense, like it's like armor. You could throw it on and you can like run through a wall with anger. But it's the things that undergird that armor that are vulnerable and they're scary. And so we have to provide a safe place for our family members, those that are precious to us, even ourselves, to be able to express them, to identify them, and to recognize that it's okay to have those feelings. But it's the way that we cope with them that matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And being an investigator of our feelings too, it's important to note that we can sometimes look to our body systems to know what's going on. You got an upset stomach for a long time, something's going on, you notice you're feeling a little more queasy than normal. Are you anxious? What's happening? Right? Been having a lot of headaches. What you're stressing about? Like knowing how our bodies respond to these things. And a lot of the work I do has to do with, trauma and alleviating symptoms that have kind of arisen out of these experiences that people have had. And one thing that I have come to learn is that even when the brain does not consciously remember traumatic experiences, the body does. Right? So if you haven't checked out, we'll make another book plug here, Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score. It is way worth it, because I tell you what, the body keeps the score. We think about even little ones that from a small age are adopted really young and stuff. And some people will say, I want to adopt a baby because they ain't got nothing. They ain't got no baggage. That is not true. That is so not true. No. Even before they're able to articulate, to verbalize, people have the potential to experience trauma. And a lot of times that is held in the body system, the nervous system and things. So.
Yeah. I had the the privilege or the fortune to be adopted at a young age. Like I didn't grow up in the foster system. I spent at least more than half of year one in foster care. And I remember growing up and my mom would tell me, she was like, for years you just didn't smile. And I was like, okay. But as an adult, I can recognize, like, when you're in the system, the problem with the system is, they're providing your physical needs, but you're just a number. So as a child in that system, you miss out on the nurturing, connecting that you get from a mother who, when they bring you out and they lay you on her chest, and that's mom from day one. You know what I'm saying? When you cry, she's the one that comes picks you up. When you're hungry, she's the one that feeds you. And you learn how to smile, even as an infant, from seeing her smile at you. You know what I'm saying? And so I hope you can make that connection. What I'm saying to you is, like, I didn't smile for at least a number of years, and the mom's like, I thought there was something wrong with you, but it just took me a while because the way I was wired, we're wired for connection, and I was born without the connection. I was brought into the world without it. And so, in a lot of ways, emotionally, my life reflects it. I was behind the curveball emotionally. And so, that's why I'm intentional about catching up at this point in my life.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are, especially if I can just.
Yeah.
I want to say that. Can I say that? I can, but I'm not. But I would definitely say that again. A majority of men are definitely challenged with that emotional, right? Because again, I mean, yeah, right. Man up, right? Don't cry. No. What you do some push-ups, right? Like it's just like this. So even dealing with that. I mean, I got girls, so sometimes I know there was a spell with my older one. Like she would just be crying. I'd be like, something happened? What's it? Are you crying? What happened? Who did it? Like, I'm trying. So no, I'm like, oh, okay. Right. But again, not really thinking about it. But again, it's just, it's that emotional component, man, especially, and I'll just even talk from my perspective. It's been a challenge. So I'm getting better at it though. I'm getting better at it. So.
Hey, bro, we all are.
Yes,
and
sir.
so, man, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. This is like the second or third time I've tried to rap. So you can know, like, I'm certain we can carry on for another hour easily. So, if this is your first time tuning in to Brothers Influence Podcast, my name is Ian Williams, Purpose Coach. And if you have been rocking out with us, you now can see that clearly I'm not the brains of the operation here with my partner and my wife. Now, on the main line with us, she's been putting it down all for the last hour and really adding so much value to the conversation. As if you didn't know, it is hashtag Mental Health Awareness Month. We've been having the conversation all month long. And as a licensed social worker and mental health professional, we wanted to bring her on to kind of share additional insights, because I'm a mental health champion or advocate, but she actually has put the time in to be able to serve us in the public space in this area, and it's a labor of love. There's a lot of legitimate work that goes into someone being able to do this. Like, people think it's like it's something that you could just pick up from experience. No, that's not true. Like, when the average person is not capable of helping, being this sort of helper, you need their education is involved, experience is involved, time spending where you're not getting paid for giving of yourself in a very deep way. And so respect to our social workers, just as if today's Memorial Day, respect to our vets, those that served, made it home and didn't make it home. I always want to honor our social workers, because I know I came out of the system, and social workers is who made sure my needs were met, and now I'm married to one, and I can see the work that goes into it. And we do everything we can to make sure that she's not operating at a deficit, because it's just the nature of the work that pulls out of you constantly. And so, shout out to our social workers. Much love to them, and particularly the one I live with. And so, with that in mind, we want to where can the people find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can follow, as Ian had said earlier, our sweet little family. We have a page. When I say family, I mean the three of us, at Team Reconcile. You can find our website at reconcileconsulting.com. And then you can reach me an email. It's my full name, Erlia Williams, at Gmail. And man, I have a lot of ways to reach me. And you can also check out my professional profile on Psychology Today.
Yes. And one of the best things about it really is Erlia often lends herself out as a resource to people. So, the seeking out this sort of help is a very personal thing, right? And this is a relationship just like any other. It's different as in it's not like a friend or a neighbor or someone like that, but the relationship has to be right? You can't just go to anyone. You need someone who you can connect with, who has an understanding of you, and creates the safe space that makes you comfortable, because you're a unique individual. But she is really great when you do need this, when you do recognize that you need help in these areas, of doing the legwork and helping you find options. So you can get out in your local area and find the therapist that can best serve you. And she
or coach
can walk with you through that process. Exactly. Or coach.
We got a couple coaches on the line. Let's take a minute here and recognize that for a second here.
That's true.
Coaching is a helping profession in and of itself too. And coaching also involves, thinking about the positive psychology and and working with our mindsets and how we perceive things, our attitudes, our boundaries. So, you guys today were my brothers in many ways, but in this way we can too. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in to the Brothers of Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value to Black and brown men in the areas of life, leadership, and community. We are not above hearing from diverse mixture of voices, one being my wife and many other professionals out there who have value to add and have a heart to share their knowledge, experience, their expertise, just so we can be better, right? This is all about us being better. And so we hear from anyone and everybody who sees fit to have goodwill towards us. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Much love to my partner, beautiful wife, professional in her own right, brains of the operation. Sherrod, I don't know if you had any final words.
Nah, brother, I'm good. You know how I get.
Okay.
Give it
Anything else before we go? Any shout out for the people?
Yeah, Sherrod, you know where to find me. You can see all my contacts there on the bottom.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we are out, people. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you to those who are listening today, to listen to the recorded session. Appreciate your time. We value you. I value you. So you know where to find me if you need me. And like Ian said, I'm a resource finder, and the other thing is a networker. So
yes, we are here for you. Yeah. We love you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week at 6 p.m. sharp. New time slot for the Brothers of Influence podcast. Peace.